Met on a rain-washed Tuesday, coffee steamed between us. He laughed with a tired kindness that reached his eyes. I watched the small crinkles at the corners, a map of a life lived. Our conversations began like harmless weather, fleeting, warm. We spoke of books, of broken umbrellas, of the city at dusk. He listened in a way that made space for my words. There was a gravity to his attention that pulled me close. I knew almost immediately the truth I did not want. He was not a single man wandering the streets alone. He spoke of a family with the same gentle reverence he offered me. There were mentions of a wife, of children tucked between stories. Each name, he said, felt like a bell I could not unring. Still, moments accumulated like soft coins in a jar. A hand brushed mine, reaching for a sugar packet. A laugh shed across the table became an island of warmth. I told myself we were simply two people finding solace. Yet solace deepened into something more insistent and bright. I found myself cataloging his habits, how he tilted his head, how he hummed. I memorized the way he folded a napkin as if learning a language. Night after night, my thoughts returned to that small geometry. I tried to trace the boundary between affection and longing. He guarded his mornings for children's breakfast routines. He kept evenings reserved for bedtime stories and household light. Our meetings unfolded in the margins of his life, between obligations. The moral map of my heart was full of sharp lines and detours. I told myself this love would remain an elegant possibility, unrealized. But the heart is not always respectful of plans or ethics. It made a home in rooms it had no right to occupy. We spoke in the quiet, confessions wrapped in caution. He called me once on a Wednesday, his voice thick with rain. We shared more than weather then, we shared a hollow ache. He said I made him feel seen in ways he feared he had forgotten. I said I knew the contours of his sorrow better than he did. He apologized for the ache his life caused me, as if I were the hurt. There were nights I imagined different constellations of choices. I pictured a life where obligations were light and doors open. In those hours, possibility felt like a dangerous warmth. Morning always arrived with a reprimand of reality. He returned to his family with the same devoted rhythm. There were photos on his phone I learned to ignore. There were messages that glowed like tiny reproaches on his screen. When we met, he carried the weight of a promise he had made. I knew the faces at his table would never be erased by my presence. Still we clung to small rebellions, a shared joke, a late walk. the city softened its edges. We watched light break over bridges and found ourselves speechless. Each stolen hour felt exquisite and destructively honest. I kept thinking of his children's small hands and small demands. I imagined their laughter as an umbrella he would never relinquish. How could I ask him to relinquish them, to choose me instead? The question sat between us like an accusation and a prayer. He spoke of duty as if it were a garment he could not shed. His love for them was a sun around which his life orbited. Loving him and learning how to navigate that orbit. There were moments of tenderness that made my resistance crumble. He would look at me as if I were a harbor after a storm. In those moments, everything else, reasons, warnings dimmed, but morning always restored the order that kept us apart. He would kiss my forehead with an incomparable solemnity. Then he would place his phone beside his child's storybook. I hated how much the ordinary things mattered more than us. I loved him enough to respect the walls he would not breach. That love felt like a lantern held at arm's length, beautiful and small. Sometimes I thought belonging could be negotiated, rearranged. Other times reality slammed its door so hard the hinges ached. He lived in the tension of two loyalties that could not fully meet. I learned to read the pauses in his sentences like weather reports. He learned to soften his exit, to leave without making a scene.